Tulum, Mexico, a destination that attracts people from all over the world for many different reasons, from getting those famous Instagram shots, to exploring delicious food and cuisine, to hanging out at the beach clubs, and for those explorers to go check out all of the amazing cenotes. What is a cenote though? A cenote is a natural pit or sinkhole resulting from the collapse of limestone bedrock that exposes groundwater. And so guys, in today's video, we're going to be sharing with you 10 cenotes that we explored while we were in Tulum, Mexico. They're all either in Tulum or within a couple hour driving distance that we think you're going to like. So before we jump in guys, I do want to mention that these cenotes are listed from my least favorite to my most favorite. And there's a few factors as I go through each cenote that I'll explain to you why I did like them a lot or why I didn't. And so these are my preferences personally, so keep in mind my third favorite might be your most favorite for what it has to offer. So make sure you stick around till the end so you get a really good idea of what each cenote offers. I spend a lot of time really detailing the great parts and the negative parts from each place, and so I think you'll really like this video. So before I jump into this video guys, I want to give you a few tips when visiting cenotes. Number one is you should bring your own snorkel mask from either home or buy one in the town if you're going to be visiting a bunch of cenotes. It might be cheaper for you. We purchased ours for I want to say $15 or $20, and so since we went to 10 cenotes in the month that we were there, it really paid for itself rather than paying between $5 and $7 each time to rent snorkel gear. And during the pandemic, it's kind of nice to have your own and not be sharing some, even though they seem to be clean at most places. Better safe than sorry, right? The second thing I want to share with you is don't wear sunblock to the cenotes because they're going to make you shower it off. Those oils will be seen in the water, so don't come in with bug spray or sunscreen. And in most places, you're probably going to have to shower anyways, and be prepared. They are cold showers. There hasn't been a single cenote I've been to where they're like, hey, turn on this lever and you get your hot water. Nope, it is very cold water, so before you get in that cenote, you're going to get a nice wake-up call when you have that water hit you. Hopefully it's a hot day, so it'll feel great when you do that, but just know that because it is a little shock to the body. Make sure you watch the sun, because at certain times of the day when the sun breaks through, that's when you're gonna get those picturesque views in the cenote, those shots that you see on Instagram, the ones that are absolutely amazing, not only for photos, but also to experience in real life. Of course, I have to start with my least favorite cenote, so this video will not start out with a bang, because this one was the only cenote that I truly was disappointed in. Cenote Multun sits just outside of the Coba ruins. It's part of 3 different cenotes in this area that people will often visit as part of a tour, which means tour buses, which means lots of people, and especially during the pandemic, not really the place you want to be. Now, here's the thing about Multun Ha. When you look up the images on Google, it looks like a stunning place way down underground. You'll have the place to yourself, a very serene and peaceful experience. However, when we went in November, it was quite the opposite. We pulled up and there were multiple tour buses sitting in front and people were unloading mid-pandemic, and there was a very small little spiral staircase that led you down, and we were packed going down. As soon as we started going down those spiral stairs, I knew we were in for a treat that we didn't want, so let's put it that way. As soon as we walked down in there, there was hundreds of people. Everyone was really close together. Even if the pandemic wasn't happening right now, I wouldn't recommend going there because you don't get that cenote all to yourself feeling. That said, I was there around 3:30 p.m. The later you go in the day, the more likely you're going to run into more people. So as I'll say with all cenotes, we had our best experiences, ironically also at the ones that we went super early in the morning. So all of the cenotes I'm telling you about, they might actually get really busy, or they might not, just depending on the time of day you go. I want to give Multun Ha the benefit of the doubt. If you have it in your itinerary, try and go early in the morning. Try and go before you visit the Coba ruins, and then maybe you can avoid those tour buses full of people. Because like I said, the photos on Google do make it look like a stunning place. We just had so many people around us, we couldn't even take in what the vibes looked like. That said, guys, don't let this cenote get you down. This is the only one that I'm really going to put on blast. Most of the other ones, as I mentioned a few times already, were an amazing experience, and I I could not recommend them highly enough. So leading into number 2 is Zacilha. This one sits about 10-15 minutes or so just outside of Tulum, Mexico. It's a very short drive. I wouldn't necessarily recommend biking because it is pretty far on a main highway. So Zacilha is a cool cenote. I would say it's very commercialized. There are restaurants and gift shops. There's a couple man-made pools in there, and then your main cenote that's quite small actually. It feels very man-made. Now, I don't think there was chlorine in it, but when I jumped in, I tasted chlorine, but that might have just been because it looked so much like a pool that I thought that. Fact check me on that. I don't know if it is or not. That said, it is a small cenote. It is very beautiful. However, there's not really much to it. There aren't caves to explore around it. It's just a pool sitting in the middle, but the big highlight they have there is you can pay about 10 pesos and then you can zip line into it. That part made it still a good time for me. Being able to zip line, hop right in, that was great. Now paying 10 pesos each time and having a lifeguard need to take you up there was a little bit of a pain, but outside of that, it is a cool cenote to visit. Coming in at the number 8 best one is Cenote Azul. This is about 25 minutes north of Tulum, a little bit closer to Playa del Carmen. Cenote Azul is a beautiful one. Once again, this is a location that we went at around 1:30 p.m., so it was loaded with a lot of people. That said, it wasn't so crazy that you still couldn't take in the natural beauty of it. I liked Cenote Azul for a few reasons. They had a pretty big cliff that you could jump off. Oh my god. And then some of the areas a little bit closer to the main cliffs, they had some great spots where you could snorkel and kind of free dive down under through a few caves, and it was crystal clear blue water, which made it stunning. Had we gone probably earlier in the morning, I bet we would have had the place mostly to ourselves, and then it would have been even higher on my list because it is a beautiful cenote and there is a lot in that area to explore. It's quite large actually, so even though it had a lot of people in there when we were there, we could still get a lot of the space to ourselves if we swam to some of the further away parts in the cenote. You can get food there as well as rental snorkel gear and life jackets. Coming in as the next one on the list is Cenote Cristalino. This one is roughly a 25-minute ride up. And today I have joining me Ryan, who I met on Instagram.
Hey, what's up?
Originally from Texas, and he's been in Mexico for about 2 months. Specifically, we're taking a, what are they called again?
Colectivo.
Colectivo. So this is a really inexpensive way. As you can see, there's a bunch of others on the Colectivo right now, all going to different destinations, and we can just hop off on the way for about 30 pesos, which is around $2 and $1.50. Yeah. So super, super cheap, especially in comparison to a rental car, which will cost you around $30 per day plus gas. So super excited to check it out. We'll see you guys once we get over there. It's 150 pesos to get into this cenote, and there's a few different spots to go and explore. Another great thing about this cenote is, that makes it quite unique definitely, is that there's a bunch of little fish in here and they eat the skin cells off your feet. So you get a little pedicure, free pedicure that's included in the price. Tickles a little bit though. All right guys, we just spent the last hour checking out this cenote. We hopped in, did a little cliff jumping, and kind of explored what all was under there. Unfortunately, we didn't get the beautiful rays coming into the water, but either way, this cenote is still so beautiful, rain or shine, as you can see right now. This cenote though, I would rank it pretty high based on the other ones we've been to so far. There is a really cool spot, probably my favorite part of all of it, was swimming under the tree roots. And for me, that's a little bit scary because I haven't ever like swam under something, like almost free dove for a very much beginner. But it was really cool. It was exhilarating to like go under through the tree roots and then come back up. Saw some really cool sights under here, and like I said, one of my favorite parts was when those fish come and eat around your feet, your dead skin cells. So it's super, super cool. Coming in at the next cenote on the list is going to be Cenote dos Ojos, very close to Cristalino as well as Cenote Azul. It's all within that driving area in between Tulum and Playa del Carmen. So if you have the time and you want to spend a full day doing the cenote tours, this one is another great one to add into those bucket of 3 so far. So guys, we are about to go ahead and start our tour. There's 2 ways to visit these cenotes over here though. You can come here and pay, I believe it's 350 Mexican pesos, and then you're able to just go to some of the open areas to snorkel around the cenotes here. Or you can pay 600 pesos, and that's per person, and then you have a guide with a group between like 6 to 10 people who will basically take you into some of the areas that are a little bit more like dangerous to go on your own, and they'll basically lead you through and kind of give you more of a tour for about 1 hour and 30 minutes. Also included in the tour is a snorkel mask. You have the option to put a wetsuit on None of the people we were in the group with did a wetsuit. The water's like about 75 degrees, so it's pretty refreshing, a little bit chilly after a bit, but when you're swimming around, it doesn't feel as cold as it is. And also that 600 pesos will include a locker to lock up any of your belongings. Make sure to bring a GoPro. You don't want to bring like your phone in there because you're going to be swimming around constantly, and that way the GoPro can go underwater, get you all the photos, videos you want to go ahead and capture and post later. And the last thing, I didn't mention this, they give you a flashlight as well since it's pretty dark. I mean, it's inside the caves here, so you can have the flashlight to go ahead and see around under there. It's pretty cool. So guys, we just finished up an epic snorkel trip. It was totally worth it signing up for the guide and going through like all the different caves. At the very end, we snorkeled like under kind of a little scary area to find this like secret cave, but it's not so secret anymore. That was loaded with like these like 6 months to 12-month-year-old bats. In those areas that are closer to the parts where you walk into the entrance, there you're going to get those beautiful light rays that beam into the water, those ideal photos and videos you want to get when you're exploring those cenotes. All right, coming in at the next cenote on the list here is Cenote Soitun.
All right guys, we are in Soitun. This is my first vlog reporting for Mac Candy.
What's going on? Now this cenote is on your way to Chichen Itza, so if you're going to that wonder of the world and you want to add on some additional time to explore, this one is a great one to add to your list. One thing I want to mention is my experience at Cenote Soitun probably isn't as good as what you've seen on some of the Instagram photos. So what makes Cenote Soitun so unique, it has this pathway you can go on and walk out to right where the light source beams through the hole of the top of the cenote. This gives you some of the most legendary photos you can take. The problem is this year when we were there, and they said for the next couple months, for those of you that are going in the next couple months, it is overflowed with so much rainwater. So it's probably 3 or 4 meters deep at this point, so it's a much different experience than from what you may have seen on Instagram in the past. That said, it is still really cool to swim around in there. You still have that light beaming through. You just don't have as legendary of an opportunity for that photo op. But if you're not going there just for the photo op, it's still pretty cool to swim around. All right, our next cenote on the list is Casa Cenote. Casa Cenote actually sits within inside Tulum. It's pretty close to the Tulum ruins, and this is a bit more of a unique cenote because you're going to spend the most money here. You have 2 options to explore this massive cenote. Number 1 is to go snorkeling, which you have to pay, I want to say, between 25 and 35 US dollars. Or option 2, which I'm more familiar with because it's what I did, is to go scuba diving. Here with Andre, and we are doing scuba diving for our first time ever. How was it?
Awesome, man.
It was awesome? So yeah guys, you heard it from them. It is awesome. Here it's only about 6 meters deep, so it's okay I guess for beginners. They're giving us like a 30-minute instruction where they're gonna give us kind of the basics for about 2,000 pesos or 100 US dollars. And during that time, they give you roughly an hour scuba diving tour with a guide, and they give you all the gear, and they take you down into the depths of this cenote, roughly I would say about 6 to 7 meters deep. So they only take you down to a beginner level depth. That said, you are still scuba diving, so it's important to make sure you maintain those safety tips, but it is a stunning view down there. The cenote is also very unique because there are so many different land formations under there and really cool things to look at when you're scuba diving. I haven't done much scuba diving ever before, so I can't tell you what's the best and worst scuba diving, but I will say I had a really amazing time doing it. When you're scuba diving, and I'm sure when you're snorkeling as well, you can see some pretty decent sized fish, maybe about 18 inches or so swimming around in there. Other than that, there's not too much wildlife, but the water is very clear, so you can see quite far into the distance. All right, our next cenote on the list is called Gran Cenote. This one is right near Tulum's El Centro, roughly a 15 to 20 minute bike ride or 10-minute car ride to get you from El Centro to Gran Cenote. Gran Cenote is a very iconic location. It is a beautiful spot for a few different reasons, and that is there are a bunch of caves connecting this cenote to a few different areas that you can swim around, snorkel to, and free dive a little bit further under the water if you'd like as well. The water is ultra clear. You can see very far when you're under the water, and probably my favorite part of the cenote is there are turtles swimming around in the cenote with you, so they're all over, and that's pretty cool to have them near you. The one thing I didn't like about this Cenote is they're very strict about bringing camera gear in there. I'm guessing they probably get so many people sometimes that they just don't want a bunch of people running around with cameras. So what do they mean by cameras? Well, they did not let me bring in my main camera, which is, it looks like a pretty big unit, so I understand that. They didn't even let me bring my drone in my backpack inside, but since we rode bikes there, we basically begged them saying we're never coming back here if we can't just keep my drone in the backpack. So don't even bring your drone with you in there. Number 3 is I had my little handheld stabilizer for my phone, and they kept telling me it was a drone because it's called DJI, the name of a drone brand, and so they wouldn't even let me use my phone stabilizer. So I was pretty annoyed when we first got there because I wanted to catch as much footage for you guys as possible to really show you what this Cenote was going to look like, as well as help them out because it's going to bring them more business. And so that said, that was the only downside, but if you're not a videographer anyways, this doesn't even matter to you, so you can ignore all of this. One thing though is if you have a GoPro, they do allow you to bring your GoPro. So that's how I got all this footage that you've been seeing throughout this clip of Grand Cenote. Coming in at number 2, which honestly, I would probably call this number 1 maybe. Hard to say. These next two between second and first place are hard to say. I like them both for very different reasons, but this one is Cenote Iquil, which is right next to Chichen Itza. So also a great cenote you could pair up with Cenote Soitun, Cenote Iquil, this one, and then Chichen Itza if you wanted to do a big day trip to those 3 spots and make a full day kind of road trip. So since this one's roughly 2 hours from Tulum, Mexico, just keep in mind there is a long driving distance if you're going there. But honestly, this cenote is so beautiful, driving all the way there is worth it. When you first walk up, you see this massive hole in the ground and vines are hanging around from the perimeter, and you can see people in there swimming around, but they're a very small speck with how massive this cenote is. Once you walk down the stairs and you're on your way down into the cenote, there's an amazing staircase that brings you down that runs along the perimeter into the cenote. And on your way down, you have lookout points that you can get some cool photos, as well as get another perspective of what this cenote looks like. Once you're in there, you can really feel how massive this place is. You have a couple options to just go swim around in that hole and just hang out and float there. That was one of my favorite things. And then they have a ledge to get some amazing photos. If you get your camera angled just right, you can get it perfect and get your ultimate shot. This was definitely the best place to take some Instagram photos, if that's what your objective might be, which for some it is, and for others it's just exploring these amazing cenotes, and this one checks boxes for both of those groups of people. So overall, I really enjoyed this cenote, guys. I highly recommend it. I think you'll love it. Coming in at, I believe, number 1, once again, Cenote Iquil and Cenote Calavera. They are hard to compare. Iquil was way bigger, and so that part made it feel that much more grand, whereas Cenote Calavera, it's a very small cenote, and if there's a lot of people here, I feel like that experience would not be great. The 2 times that I went to Cenote Calavera, I went very early in the morning. The first time I went around 9:30 on a Saturday, and there wasn't too many people there besides my group of people, but later on, probably an hour and a half after that, it really started to fill up, and then it didn't feel as grand. Everyone was trying to get that perfect photo, and then someone was walking into their photos. But the second time I went at around 8 a.m. I didn't realize that it opened at 9 a.m., but luckily when we arrived, they actually said, no problem, you guys can go in an hour early. So we had this place pretty much all to ourselves, and that was stunning because we could explore this cenote, get some amazing photos and videos, and really capture the natural beauty of this spot. Now, what makes this one so unique and why I love it so much is because it is unique for the reason of having 2 holes where you can jump right in. It looks like you're jumping into the ground, and this part is so cool. It looks a little scary, and honestly, your first time jumping in, it is a little scary, but once you jump in, you're in the cenote, and then you can swim maybe 20 feet over, and there's a ladder to get right out. Now, if you don't want to jump through the holes, that's okay. There's a ladder to walk down in, or there's also a swing if you want to hang out in that area. Alright guys, and that wraps up my 10 cenotes to visit near Tulum. Now keep in mind there's thousands of cenotes in Mexico, so this covers a very small percentage of what's out there, but these were some of the highly rated ones. If you have some other cenotes you've been to that you think are amazing, would love to know what those are. If you can drop them in the comments. There are so many more around Tulum, in Tulum, that you should definitely check out as well. The more time you have, the more you can explore. This is what we were able to cover in about 1 month's time, with also doing a bunch of other activities. And so guys, if you want to know anything anything more about Tulum, I have a whole bunch of other videos that'll be super helpful for you. Cost of living in Tulum, Tulum travel guide, things to do in Tulum that will cover all the questions you might have if you're visiting Tulum, Mexico. So I really hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you've liked it, would love it if you can give me a thumbs up. Helps this channel so much. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button below, and that'll ensure you don't miss any upcoming videos because we'll be releasing content from all around the world.